Hello and welcome to Gunnar Weiskamp's Web Development. Today we're doing lesson 2 in Web API and we're doing our first app. So there are a number of ways that we can make a Web API using Visual Studio. The first way of doing it is within and connected to a new MVC solution. So you'll have an MVC solution with your normal controllers and models files, plus you'll get a Web API area, B is what we're going to demonstrate today. So B is what I'll show you in a second. By itself, you can just make a Web API solution, no MVC. You can also create an empty project, and you can then inject the Web API components via the NuGet package manager console into your empty project. So again, B is the first one we're going to do today and show how that comes about. So here we are. So yeah, if you want to create today's app, I'm using Visual Studio 2013. Just go here, a file, new project, and then do B. I've got 4.5 framework there, and then you want C here. You want the empty selected, but you want MVC and Web API selected both together. So this will allow us to create an MVC and our Web API application all in the one. Okay, well let's have a look at what we've got. Where are we? So this is our empty MVC app with Web API put in it. So let's just close this down. You can see we've still got our normal controllers file here, our normal models, and our view files. Here in the app start, this is the slightly different thing is, apart from a route config, which you normally get with our MVC app, we've also got this Web API config, which we can see here. Now, those people that are not new to MVC will have a bit of understanding of what routing is about. The only real difference here with the routing process is I do prefer sometimes, side by side. So we've got our Web API here on the left, and we've got our MVC route here on the right. Extremely similar sort of structures, as we can see. The only main difference for me, obviously we've got different name parameters here, and you know, for me they all do the same thing. Really, they're all telling the application where to go and get its information. So here you can see in our Web API config, we've got this API folder. So when we make our call to our API, here for this solution, we need an API folder. You can change it if you want, you can call it whatever you want. Just make sure that aligns up to the folder where we're going to put it's called a Web API controller in there. But we're getting to that. So let's first add a new folder and call it API. Okay, now we are going to put our Web API controller here in this folder here. So that's what this guy is. He's slightly different than this guy. He or she, I must say, or it, inherits from a different sort of controller structure, but we'll see that in 2 seconds. What are we going to call it? Get user data. We still like to keep our convention here by calling all our files within here with the controller name there. So let's add that in. So yeah, with some people here for knowledge of MVC, you'll notice that all MVC controllers inherit from the controller class. When you see in a second the API controller created, you'll see it inherits from the API controller class. So that's what I mean. Doing this web API with MVC, there are a lot of similarities which I think allows you to get an ease of understanding when making these sort of processes. There we go. So I've already created some code and it's in the clipboard, so I'm going to paste it in here. And all this is our excuse me, is our it's what our web API is going to do. But I'll explain the code later on. Let's first do all the code. So we've also got to create a model folder. That's not created yet, and we've got to do that in here, just like a normal MVC app we're doing here. So we're adding in all the components. So let's do that. There it goes. While that is going in there, I'm going to get my model code. There he is. So let's put him in. And now let's bring this namespace in here. Right, so that's our web API config all ready to go, but we will discuss code soon. Let us add a controller. And of course this will be an MVC controller. And we'll just name it home. While that's doing that, let us grab the code for our home controller. There should be, there's the code. So we'll put this in our controller now. There we go. Now we have to build the app. Just so when we add, whoops, it's not going to work. I can already see why. We've got to bring in the namespace, of course. So that's going to fail. Bits to rushy. Yeah, so once it's built, then we're going to add our view, and yeah, when adding our view, we have to make sure the interface of the view process can see the models folder. Yes, we know. Oh no, we fixed it already. So let's rebuild or build. Doesn't really matter. Okay, voila. All good. Right, now let's add a view. View, here we go. So we want details. I'm gonna let's grab our view in here as well. I'm not going to reference anything. Nice and simple. I'm going to paste some code over it because we want to sort of tailor this code anyway. So let's just do that, and while that's doing its magic, let us grab the last bits of code here. Come away. How are you doing that? Visual Studio. Anyway, no, my computer. Let's grab the code from here for our view that's going to come up. 2 seconds. Different ways of doing the same thing. Yeah, so I'm getting rid of the current review code, so probably didn't have to do it. Anyway, let's just paste this in. And you will have to bring the namespace in here. It's slightly different in the other application. That's just web API. If you're wondering where I'm getting that from, that's just the solution name here. So that's just this guy here. Obviously, models folder is the models folder. Yeah, so okay, we've got all our code now. Let's go and sort of have a bit of a look and see how all this magic works before we build it. So this is our route config, and I'm not going to talk about that too much because it's the same as an MVC routing. I have already explained a little bit about the web API routing. Works much in a lot of ways the same as MVC routing. Here we have our API. This is going to help navigate the application to this folder here, and then call the defined action in here. So this is mapping the process out for the API. Let's close that. Now, how best to explain this? So this is the source. This is where we start in many ways. Let's save everything. This is where we start in many ways. This is our home controller. When the app comes up, it'll first go in here. And what are we doing in here? We are passing this user data model to the view. All this is doing is passing this guy here. It's going to have the username and the password. Passname is going to be unknown to this app. And what we're going to do here in our view of this app is what this allows us to do is when we click on this link here, we're going to go into the API area, which is here. We're going to go into the username area. Let's just make sure that's called username. I believe that should be like, see, slight error there. Whoops, whoa, no. See, these have to be the route. So this is our API call. This is our controller call. So in other words, username controller. We got here get user data, so that won't work. So we do have to change that. Where were we? In here in our web API. And so let's just delete that. Guess I should rename that as well to make everything kosher. There we go. That should be fine now. So going back here. So this is gonna, going back into view. This here, we'll call this folder, when we click on it, we'll call into here, calling this controller here, calling this function, which also lives in the web API controller here, which is this. So a lot of the magic is happened by this simple link here. Obviously we're passing a username as well, which is going to be provided by our model there as well. So in this case we're going to be passing in the name of, we're passing in the name of Mary, and when we click the link we want to know the password of Mary. And that's going to be found out when we enter the API here. Let's save everything. So we come in here for username of Mary, and then we're going to search this object here, a list object, for Mary's password. And obviously it's going to be my password Mary. This is then simply returned to the screen using this JSON object, and we see my password Mary come up the screen. So obviously this is just an example of the web API mechanics when doing certain things. So what we're going to see here is an MVC call calling into a web API call. You can do many things in here, obviously. You can do database hits. You don't just have to do a HTTP GET request. You can do posts, deletes, whatever is needed. So let's have a look at this in action now. Let's bring up the web page. And let's bring up, whoops, wrong one. And let's just minimize that down. So we've got the page up here, as we can see. If we go in the home controller, we've set the name as Mary. So the username Mary is coming up there nice and fine. And this link is obviously created here as we talked about. And so now when we click on this link, it will go into the web API URL as we talked about and return this password, because Mary is found in this object. At least I hope so. So let's click. And there we go. We have my password Mary. So we can see it's entered this object. We've done an API call from the MVC app. And that generally is the magic and how it works. So this is how we've just talked about how a web API is created within an MVC app. So you can see the structure here. You've got all your normal MVC actions here, and then you've got obviously here and here your web API components. As mentioned, this is just one way of doing a web API call, and soon we will be looking at other ways as well. Okay, so hopefully this has been of some use to you guys out there, and please subscribe to my channel, or feel free to visit my website at gunnarweiskamp.com. Thanks guys, see you later.